Look, I have been running detention facilities for 17 cycles. 17. I have processed criminals from 462 different species. I have seen beings that could melt through solid titanium with their spit, creatures that could phase through walls, and one particularly memorable individual who could detonate his own internal organs and regrow them for fun. Fun, can you believe that? So when they told me a human was being transferred to my facility, I laughed. Actually laughed, out loud, in front of my entire security staff. A human, I said, all four of my eye stalks blinking in amusement. One of those soft pink weaponless bipeds from that backwater planet, the ones who die if the temperature shifts by 20 degrees, those humans. The Galactic Council's security protocols are very clear, very thorough, and very, very paranoid. Every species gets classified, every species gets a threat assessment, every species gets a nice little file that tells us exactly how dangerous they are and what precautions we need to take. It is all very scientific, very precise, very boring. Humans were listed as Class F threats. Class F. Do you know what Class F means? It means functionally harmless. It is the same classification we give to the pillow people of Fluffmax 7, who are literally made of down feathers and communicate through interpretive sneezing. I should have read the footnotes. The transport shuttle docked at Bay 7, with a hiss that echoed through the reception area. I was there personally, because that is what a good warden does. I greet the high-profile transfers. I make sure they understand exactly where they are and what kind of establishment I run here. Detention Center Kappa 9 has a 99.7% containment record. The only reason it is not 100% is because of an incident involving a sentient gas cloud. And honestly, that barely counts. My name is Krell, by the way, Warden Krell, and I take pride in my work. The security team rolled out. 6 of my best guards surrounding the containment pod. Standard procedure. The pod itself was humming with energy fields. Triple locked, probably overkill for a Class F, but the Council does not take chances with interstellar prisoners. Politics. You understand, always politics. Open it up, I ordered, waving 2 of my mid-arms in the standard authorization gesture. The pod cracked open with a pneumatic sigh, and there he was, the human. Marcus Webb, according to his file. He stepped out slowly, blinking in the bright lights of the facility, and I got my first real look at him. Honestly, disappointing. He was maybe 6 feet tall, give or take. Tan skin, dark hair cropped short, wearing the standard prisoner jumpsuit that hung loosely on his frame. No claws, no fangs, no armored plating, no extra limbs, no bioluminescent threat displays, nothing. He looked like someone had taken the most average species in the galaxy and then forgotten to add any interesting features. Welcome to Detention Center Kappa 9, I announced, keeping my voice formal but not unkind. I am Warden Krell. You will surrender all weapons, contraband, and personal effects. You will comply with facility regulations. You will not cause trouble. Do you understand these terms? The human looked at me with these strange flat eyes. 2 of them. Just 2. Surrounded by white with a colored iris in the middle. Brown in his case. They did not glow, did not rotate independently, did not even blink sideways. But there was something in them. Something that made my tertiary stomach clench just a bit. I understand, he said. His voice was calm, quiet, almost amused. Excellent. Security. Confiscate his items. This is where it gets funny. Or where I thought it was funny at the time. Looking back, the universe was definitely laughing at me. Not with me. Guardvoss stepped forward, scanner in hand, running it over the human from head to toe. The device beeped, whirred, and then displayed its findings on the holographic readout. I leaned in to examine the list. 1 metal ring on his left hand. Wedding band. The file noted. Sentimental value only. No defensive or offensive capabilities. 1 pair of soft-soled shoes. Standard Earth fabrication. No hidden compartments. 1 chronometer on his wrist. Mechanical. Non-networked. Could not be used for communication or hacking. That is it? I asked, genuinely confused. That is it, sir, Voss confirmed, his reptilian snout twitching with something that might have been disappointment. I looked at Marcus Webb again. You came to an interstellar conflict summit with no weapons? None at all? The human smiled. Actually smiled. It was not a threatening expression on his species. Their teeth are flat, mostly, designed for grinding plant matter and cooked meat. Not tearing through flesh. Did not think I would need any, he said. I was there to talk, not fight. Clearly the talking did not go well. I observed, gesturing to his prisoner status. You could say that, he agreed, still with that odd little smile. We processed him through intake, took his ring, his shoes, his chronometer, gave him regulation cell slippers and a prisoner number, scanned his biometrics, the whole procedure, by the book, professional, official. He complied with everything, no resistance, no complaints, no threats. He even thanked Guard Tharma when she handed him his bedding allotment, thanked her, like this was a hotel and not a maximum security detention facility that has held warlords and terrorists and people who committed crimes I cannot even pronounce. Cell block 9 maximum security, I ordered. Standard monitoring, standard meal rations. He is human, so check the database for dietary restrictions. I do not want him dying from allergic reactions on my watch. The paperwork would be horrendous. Yes, sir, Voss said, leading Marcus away. I watched them go, the human walking calmly between 4 armed guards like he was taking a casual stroll. No fear, no anger, no anxiety, just calm. That should have been my second clue. The first clue was that smile. But I had a facility to run, reports to file, and 3 other prisoners arriving that cycle. One of them was a Thorian berserker, who could bench press a small spacecraft. That seemed much more worthy of my attention than one harmless human. Besides, what was the worst he could do? Bore us to death with stories about his planet's weather patterns. Ha. Ha ha. The universe has a sense of humor, and I was about to become its favorite punchline. The security briefing the next morning was routine, dull even. I sat at the head of the conference table in my office, reviewing overnight reports while my senior guards gave their updates. Guard Voss was going on about Cell Block 6, and some dispute over food rations between 2 Krothian inmates. Guard Tharma was discussing maintenance issues with the environmental controls in Sector 12. Guard Grunt, who has more muscles than brain cells but is loyal as they come, was eating his breakfast and nodding along without understanding a single word. And the human? I asked, more out of procedure than actual concern. Voss flicked through his datapad. Quiet, cooperative, slept through the night cycle, ate his breakfast, no issues whatsoever. See? I said, leaning back in my chair with satisfaction. Class F, functionally harmless. I do not understand why the council flagged this transfer as high priority. The paperwork alone was absurd. 3 different authorization codes, 2 DNA verifications, a direct sign-off from a council representative. All for that. Tharma, who is generally the most cautious of my staff, clicked her mandibles together thoughtfully. Sir, I did read something interesting in the human species file last night, just out of curiosity.
Huh?
I was only half listening, signing off on a requisition form for new stun batons. Their planet, Earth. The environmental conditions are classified as Class 7 hostile. That got my attention. I looked up. Class 7. That cannot be right. Class 7 means active planetary threats, extreme weather, toxic atmosphere zones, megafauna predators. You are telling me these soft little bipeds come from a Class 7 world? According to the file. Yes, sir. I snorted, which sounds more impressive when you have 3 nasal passages. Then the file is wrong. Obviously. Look at them. They have no natural defenses, no armor, no venom, no elemental resistances. They would be prey animals on any Class 7 world, not the dominant species. The file also mentions something about persistence and adaptability. Tharma continued, but I waved her off. Every species thinks they are adaptable, I said dismissively. The Zelkrim think they are adaptable because they can survive in both wet and dry climates. The Porthun think they are adaptable because they can eat 6 different types of plant matter. Everyone is adaptable until they meet actual hostile conditions and then they are just dead. Grint laughed at that, shooting food particles across the table. Disgusting, but at least someone appreciated my humor. Speaking of our human, Voss said, changing the subject with the smooth professionalism I value in him, he has been assigned to general population for the day cycle. Cafeteria access, recreation yard, standard privileges. Good, I said, already moving on to the next report. Let him socialize. Maybe he can make friends with the pillow people. They can have a support group for species nobody takes seriously. That got another laugh from Grint. Tharma did not laugh. She just kept clicking her mandibles in that worried way she had. Sir, she said carefully, would it not be more prudent to keep him isolated until we know more about human behavior under stress? Tharma, my dear. Paranoid, overly cautious Tharma, I said with exaggerated patience. The human has no weapons, no natural defenses, No criminal history of violence. He was arrested for unauthorized assembly and disturbing the peace at a diplomatic summit. Those are basically thought crimes. He yelled too loudly in the wrong place. That is it. That is his entire criminal profile. Still. No stills. We follow protocol. Class F threats get standard treatment. If I started making exceptions for every prisoner who came from a planet with bad weather, I would never get anything done. Now, unless anyone has actual concerns based on actual evidence, I suggest we move on. We have a Vryn assassin arriving this afternoon who can liquefy her own skeleton to slip through air vents. That is worth our time. The human is not. The meeting wrapped up shortly after that. Everyone went back to their posts. The facility hummed along with its usual efficiency. Cell blocks remained secure. Meals were distributed. Recreational periods proceeded without incident. For exactly 4 hours and 17 minutes. Then all hell broke loose in the cafeteria. I was in my office, enjoying a nice cup of fermented Jack's juice, and reading through the most boring report ever written about power consumption in Cell Block 3, when the alert came through. General disturbance. Cafeteria. Multiple individuals involved. Not unusual. Prisons are full of violent criminals who do not like each other. We get fights. We break them up. We assign punishment duties. It is all very routine. I pulled up the security feed on my wall monitor expecting to see the usual, maybe some Thorians bumping chests over territory, maybe a Zelkrum food dispute, maybe someone insulted someone else's breeding appendages. What I saw instead made me sit up so fast I spilled Joink's juice all over my desk. The human, Marcus Webb, standing in the center of a ring of inmates. And he was not the victim. 3 Thorians were on the ground, not injured, not stunned, on the ground. One was holding his face. One was curled around his midsection. The third was not moving at all, just sprawled out like someone had shut off his power switch. Standing. 3 Thorians. Each one massing at least twice what the human did. Each one with natural bone plating and reinforced musculature. Each one capable of punching through a steel door.
On the ground.
Marcus stood there, breathing hard but steady, his hands up in a loose stance that looked both casual and ready. His jumpsuit was torn at the shoulder. There was blue blood on his knuckles. Not his blood. Thorian blood. The cafeteria had gone completely silent. 50 inmates from a dozen different species, all pressed back against the walls, staring at the human like he had just sprouted wings and started reciting poetry. What? I said slowly, to my empty office, in the name of the council's 7th secretary's left tentacle, is happening. I slapped the comm button. All guards to the cafeteria. Now, non-lethal suppression. Contain the human. I was already running. By the time I reached the cafeteria, 8 guards had already formed a perimeter. They had stun batons out, energy shields up, and the kind of nervous energy that comes from seeing something that does not make sense. I pushed through them, all 4 of my eyes focused on the scene. The 3 Thorians were being helped up by medical staff. One of them, a big brute named Krager, who had killed 6 people in a mining dispute, was actually whimpering. I had seen Krager take a plasma blast to the chest and laugh about it. Now he was cradling his arm, and making sounds like a wounded pup. Marcus Webb stood exactly where he had been on the security feed. Hands still up, still ready, but not attacking, not advancing, just waiting. Stand down. I ordered the human, trying to keep my voice level and authoritative. Get on the ground. Now. He looked at me with those flat brown eyes. Warden Krell, he said like we were having a pleasant conversation over lunch. I would be happy to comply, but I need you to understand something first. I did not start this. I do not care who started it. I snapped. Though that was a lie. I absolutely cared. You are the one still standing. You put down 3 inmates. 3 Thorians. Do you understand how impossible that should be? They came at me, Marcus said simply. All 3. At once. Krager said humans were soft. Said he wanted to test that theory. Said he was going to pull my arms off and use them as back scratchers. I glanced at Krager, who would not meet my eyes. Coward. So I tested his theory instead, Marcus continued. Turns out, Thorian knees bend the wrong way if you kick them from the side. Also, their bone plating does not cover their throats, and that big one, the one who is still not moving, he did not expect a headbutt. Nobody ever expects a headbutt. You headbutted a Thorian. I was having trouble processing this. Their skulls are reinforced bone, triple density. You should have knocked yourself unconscious. Marcus smiled, that small smile again. The one I was starting to hate. Human skulls are pretty dense too, Warden. We evolved smashing things with our heads. Mainly nuts and shells, but the principle applies. That is not. I started, then stopped. What was I even arguing? The evidence was right in front of me. 3 Thorians down. 1 human standing. Get on the ground. Now, or we will make you get on the ground. Sure, he said, and just like that he dropped to his knees, then laid flat, hands behind his head, completely compliant. Like the last 3 minutes had not happened. I really did not want trouble, Warden. I just wanted to eat my lunch. It was some kind of gray protein paste, but honestly it was not bad. Little bland, but I have had worse. He was talking about lunch. Lunch. While medical staff were loading a Thorian onto a stretcher. Restrain him, I ordered. Full restraints. Energy cuffs. Leg binders. I want him locked down and back in his cell immediately. 6 guards moved in. Cautious, like they were approaching an explosive device, which I was starting to realize, maybe they were. They got the cuffs on him without incident. He did not resist at all, just kept that calm expression, like this was all very reasonable and expected. As they hauled him to his feet, I noticed something. The human was not even breathing hard anymore. His heart rate, according to the bioscanner one of the guards had, was already back to normal, like he had just taken a light walk, not fought 3 alien inmates who could bench press small vehicles. Warden, Tharma said quietly, appearing at my elbow, I think we need to review the human species file more carefully. You think? I said, hearing the hysteria creeping into my voice and not caring. What was your first clue? When he disabled 3 Thorians with his bare hands, or when he casually mentioned evolving to smash things with his head? The cafeteria was still silent. Every inmate was watching Marcus being led away, and I saw something in their faces I had never seen directed at a Class F threat before. Fear.
Not respect. Not curiosity. Fear.
Back in my office, I pulled up the full species file on humans. Not the summary, not the threat assessment. The full file, the one that is 947 pages long and includes environmental data, evolutionary history, biological specifications and cultural analysis. I started reading. And reading. And reading. Oh no, I said. Somewhere around page 43. Oh no, I said. Around page 97. Why did nobody tell me this? I said around page 206, which detailed human endurance capability. Tharma had been right. Earth was Class 7 hostile, but not because of environmental conditions. Well, not just because of that. It was Class 7 because everything on that planet was actively trying to kill everything else, and humans, those soft, squishy, apparently weaponless humans, were the apex predators. They did not have claws, so they invented knives. They did not have venom, so they invented poison. They did not have armor, so they invented shields, and then later just decided armor was for the weak and developed something called adrenaline, and in it, they could not run fast, so they just ran forever. Persistence predators. The file called them. They would chase prey for days until the prey literally died of exhaustion. Days, without stopping. Their planet tried to kill them with temperature extremes, so they just adapted to live everywhere from frozen wastelands to burning deserts. Their planet tried to kill them with predators, so they killed the predators and turned them into pets. Their planet tried to kill them with diseases, so their immune systems became so aggressive that they sometimes attacked their own bodies by mistake, and they just lived with it. There was a whole section on human pain tolerance. Apparently they had cultural practices that involved deliberately injuring themselves for fun, running until their legs stopped working, lifting heavy objects until their muscles tore, hitting each other repeatedly in organized combat and calling it sports. And the section on human intelligence and problem-solving made me feel physically ill. They did not just use tools. They saw everything as a potential tool. A rock could be a hammer. A stick could be a lever. A piece of cloth could be a rope, or a bandage or a weapon, depending on how they applied it. Their brains were wired to look at any object and think, how can I use this to solve my problem or hurt my enemy? We did not confiscate his weapons, I said slowly, looking up at Tharma, who had been reading over my shoulder. We confiscated his property. His weapons are still in that cell. Sir, he is the weapon, Tharma. His body, his brain, his species spent millions of years becoming the most efficient survival machines their planet could produce. We stripped him of tools and thought that made him harmless. But humans do not need tools. They prefer them, but they do not need them. I pulled up the security feed from Marcus's cell. He was sitting on his bunk, looking relaxed, just sitting there, staring at the wall. No, not staring at the wall, studying it, looking at the seams, the ventilation grate, the door mechanism, the light fixture. His eyes moved constantly, cataloging, analyzing, planning. Maximum containment protocol, I said, effective immediately. I want his cell stripped. Nothing but a sleeping mat. No furniture, no fixtures that can be removed. I want guards on his door around the clock. I want biomonitoring running at all times, and for the love of the council, I want everyone to understand that this prisoner is not Class F. What class would you designate him, sir? Dharma asked. I looked at the feed again. Marcus had stopped studying the walls. He was looking directly at the camera now, not threatening, not angry, just looking. And somehow, that was worse. Class unknown, I said, until we figure out exactly what we are dealing with. Somewhere in the facility, an alarm started blaring. Section 7. Cell Block 9. Marcus Webb's cell block. Of course it was. I ran. Again. I was getting far too much exercise this cycle, and none of it was the enjoyable kind. The alarm was still blaring, that awful pulsing shriek that meant containment breach or active violence or some other catastrophic failure of my beautiful, well-ordered facility. Report, I shouted into my comm as I sprinted down the corridor, my multiple legs carrying me faster than most bipeds could manage. Sir, it is the human. Voss's voice came back, crackling with static and what sounded like panic. Voss did not panic. Voss had once talked down a Vryn death cultist who was threatening to explode himself and take half the facility with him. Voss did not do panic. What about the human? I demanded, skidding around a corner. We went to move him to the stripped cell like you ordered. Standard extraction procedure. 10 guards. Full restraint equipment. He was compliant at first, sir. Then what? He asked us politely to wait a moment. Said he needed to stretch first. Stretching, sir. We thought it was harmless. He did a few movements, rotated his shoulders, bent his knees. Then Guard Brixen told him time was up and reached for his arm. I reached cell block 9. The corridor was chaos. Guards everywhere. Some on the ground, some against the walls, all of them looking dazed or injured or both. Medical teams were already arriving. The door to Marcus's cell was hanging open, bent slightly at the hinges. Bent. Reinforced durasteel, bent. Finish the report, I said, stepping over a groaning Grint who was holding his midsection. He moved, sir, fast, faster than our scanners tracked. He used Brixen's own momentum against him, some kind of throwing technique. Brixen went through the air and hit 3 other guards. Then the human went low, took out Krell's legs with a sweep, used the wall for leverage to strike Voss in the nerve cluster. Disarmed Dharma without even looking at her, just reached back and twisted the baton out of her grip while fighting 2 others in front of him. I found Voss leaning against the wall, breathing hard. There was a bruise forming on his snout where his own energy shield had apparently been shoved back into his face. He fought 10 of you? I asked, my voice coming out higher than I intended. 10 trained security guards with full equipment? No, sir, Voss said, and he actually looked embarrassed. He disabled 10 of us in under a minute. It was not a fight. It was a demonstration. He did not even seem angry about it. Just efficient. Where is he now? Voss pointed down the corridor. He stopped at the intersection, just standing there, waiting. Of course he was. I walked, slowly now, toward the intersection. My guards formed up behind me, weapons ready, but I could feel their hesitation. They had just learned a very important lesson about humans, and none of them wanted a follow-up course. Marcus Webb stood in the center of the intersection where 4 corridors met. He had acquired somehow a piece of pipe from somewhere. Not a weapon exactly, just a piece of pipe maybe 2 feet long which he was holding loosely in one hand. His other hand was empty, relaxed at his side. Warden Krell, he said pleasantly. We need to talk. You just assaulted 10 of my guards, I said, keeping my distance. A safe distance, whatever that meant anymore. I defended myself from unlawful application of force, he corrected. Check your facility regulations. Section 47, paragraph 12. Prisoners have the right to understand transfer procedures and prepare themselves mentally and physically before being moved. Your guard grabbed me for I indicated readiness. That is a violation of my rights under Galactic Council detention standards. I blinked all 4 eyes. You are quoting facility regulations at me. I read them last night. Could not sleep. You have very thorough documentation, Warden. Very thorough. Also, Section 93 says prisoners are entitled to furniture in their cells for mental health purposes. You were about to put me in an empty room with nothing but a mat. That is also a violation. You are a security threat. I am a Class F detainee who has been repeatedly attacked by other inmates and now by your own guards, Marcus said calmly. I have defended myself within reasonable parameters each time. Not my fault if your facility houses violent criminals who cannot control themselves. Also not my fault if your guards have not trained against human combat techniques. The pipe in his hand spun once, casual, almost absent-minded. Just a small rotation around his fingers. It should not have been threatening. It was. How did you get that pipe? I asked. Found it, he said with a shrug. Loose ventilation cover in my cell. Shoddy maintenance, warden. I could file a complaint. You pulled apart a ventilation cover. It was already loose, he said innocently. I just helped it along. Humans have pretty good grip strength. Comes from hanging in trees back in our evolutionary past. Also useful for climbing, throwing, holding tools, strangling prey, that sort of thing. I was aware that 20 guards had formed a perimeter around the intersection now, all of them pointing weapons at one human with a piece of pipe. It should have felt secure. It felt desperate. What do you want? I asked, deciding honesty might work better than authority at this point. I want to go back to my original cell, with my original furniture. I want the Thorians who attacked me disciplined according to facility regulations. I want your guards to follow proper procedure when interacting with me, and I want dinner tonight to include something with actual flavor, because that gray paste is depressing. That is it? That is all you want? That is all I wanted from the beginning, Warden. I am not here to cause problems. I am here because I got arrested for speaking too loudly at a political event where I was invited to speak. This whole situation has been a massive overreaction by everyone involved, including you. He had a point. I hated that he had a point. And if I say no? I asked. Marcus looked around at the guards, at their weapons, at the security measures. Then he looked at the pipe in his hand. Then he looked back at me. Warden, I really hope you do not say no. Because here is the thing about humans that your files probably mentioned, but you did not really understand. We do not like fighting. Most of us. Anyway, we would rather talk, negotiate, find peaceful solutions. We invented diplomacy, democracy, debate. We built entire civilizations on the idea of resolving conflicts without violence. He paused. But we are really, really good at violence when we need to be. Millions of years of practice. And the thing is, once we start, we do not stop until the threat is neutralized. Not because we are cruel, just because that is what kept us alive. Persistence, remember. We do not give up, ever. The pipe spun again in his hand. So I am asking nicely. Follow your own regulations. Treat me fairly. Let me serve my completely unjust sentence in peace. And when my trial comes up and this whole stupid situation gets resolved, we can all walk away as friends. And if I insist on maximum containment, Marcus sighed. It was a very human sound, full of disappointment and resignation. Then I will have to insist otherwise. And Warden, you have seen what I can do when I am being cooperative and non-lethal. You really do not want to see what happens when a human stops being nice. Silence filled the corridor. My hearts were pounding in 3 different rhythms. Every instinct I had was screaming at me that this was wrong, that Class F threats did not negotiate, did not intimidate, did not stand in intersections holding pipes like they owned the facility. But he was right about the regulations, he was right about the attacks, and most importantly, he was standing in an intersection with 20 armed guards surrounding him, and somehow, I was the one who felt cornered. Stand down, I said quietly. Sir, boss questioned. Stand down, I repeated, louder. All units, stand down. Return the prisoner to his original cell, full furniture. Standard privileges, and someone get maintenance up here to properly secure that ventilation cover. Marcus smiled, not smug, just relieved. Thank you, Warden. I appreciate your reasonableness. He handed the pipe to the nearest guard, who took it like it might explode. I sat in my office for a long time after that, staring at nothing. My Janks juice had gone cold. My reports were forgotten. The entire facility was running on autopilot while I tried to process what had just happened. A Class F threat had negotiated his own terms. In my facility. I pulled up the communication array and opened a priority channel to the Galactic Council Detention Authority. Someone there had answers. Someone there was going to explain to me why I had not been properly briefed. Someone there was going to tell me what I was actually dealing with. The face that appeared on my screen belonged to Counselor Thex, a Vraxian with silver skin and too many teeth. She looked tired. Actually, she looked exhausted, like she had not slept in several cycles. Warden Krell, she said, her voice flat. Let me guess. The human. Yes, the human, I snapped, my professional composure finally cracking. The human who you classified as Class F. The human who has now put 13 of my inmates and guards in medical. The human who just negotiated his own detention terms while surrounded by armed security. That human. Thex rubbed her face with 3 of her hands. How bad is the damage? No fatalities if that is what you are asking, but only because he was holding back. I have read the species file now, Counselor, the full file, the one that is 947 pages of nightmare fuel. Why was he classified as Class? Because of politics, Warden. Always politics. She leaned back in her chair and I saw something in her expression I did not like. Guilt, maybe, or regret. When humans first joined the Galactic Council, there was debate, lots of debate, about how to classify them. Some argued for Class A threat status, apex predators from a hostile world with tool-using intelligence and social cooperation. That combination has never appeared before in Council history. Never. So why Class F? Because humans asked us to, Thex said simply. They did not want to be feared, did not want to be isolated, did not want every species in the galaxy treating them like monsters. They wanted to be part of the community. They showed us their art, their music, their literature. They talked about peace and cooperation and building bridges between species. And we believed them, because they were so earnest about it, so genuine. They really meant it. She paused, looking down at something on her desk. So we compromised. Class F in the official records, Class A in the restricted files that only high-level security personnel are supposed to access. We thought it was the best solution. Let humans integrate peacefully while keeping the warnings available for those who needed to know. I needed to know, I shouted. I am running a detention facility full of violent criminals from dozens of species, and you sent me an apex predator without proper warning. You were supposed to read the restricted files, Warden. I read the summary. The summary said Class F. Thex sighed. Yes, I am realizing now that was an oversight in our procedures. We have received 47 similar complaints from detention facilities across the sector this cycle alone. Apparently, humans are very good at seeming harmless right up until they are not. I slumped in my chair. Tell me about Marcus Webb. Why is he really here? Exactly what his file says. He attended an interstellar peace summit. He was part of a human delegation advocating for better labor rights for colony workers. There was a protest. It got loud. Some delegates felt threatened. Marcus was arrested for disturbing the peace and unauthorized assembly. That is it? He is here for protesting? Peaceful protesting, Thex emphasized. No violence, no property damage. He gave a speech. A very passionate speech apparently, about workers being treated fairly. Some of the corporate delegates did not appreciate it. They pushed for his arrest, and because it was a council-sanctioned event, the charges stuck. I stared at the screen. So we are holding a non-violent protester in a maximum security facility where he has been repeatedly attacked, and he has defended himself each time without killing anyone, which he absolutely could have done. Yes, and I just threatened him with torture-level isolation for defending himself. Also yes, I am the villain in this story, aren't I? Thex's expression softened slightly. You are not a villain, Warden Krell. You are a bureaucrat doing your job with incomplete information. But yes, from the human's perspective, this probably looks very unjust. I thought about Marcus standing in that intersection holding a piece of pipe, asking for basic dignity and decent food. Not demanding, asking. What happens now? I asked. His trial is scheduled in 3 cycles. Given the circumstances and the political pressure humans are applying, he will likely be released with time served and a formal apology. The corporations who pushed for his arrest are backing down. Apparently having a human arrested for speech has caused significant public relations problems for them. Humans are very, very good at public relations when they want to be. So I just keep him here for 3 more cycles and try not to start an interstellar incident. Essentially, yes. Treat him fairly. Follow your own regulations. Give him the decent food he asked for. And Warden, for the love of the Council and all its secretaries, do not antagonize him further. Humans have long memories and a highly developed sense of justice. They also have a concept called revenge. which they have elevated to an art form over thousands of years. Wonderful. Anything else I should know? Thex hesitated. Humans also have a concept called forgiveness. If you treat Marcus Webb with respect from now on, acknowledge the mistakes, and ensure his safety for the remaining time, he will likely harbor no ill will. They are remarkably capable of letting go of grudges when genuine effort is made to correct wrongs. They are complicated that way, dangerous and kind, violent and peaceful, predator and protector. She leaned closer to the screen. They are walking contradictions, Warden, and that is what makes them so effective. You never know which side you are going to get until you push them. My advice? Stop pushing. The screen went dark. I sat there for another long moment, processing everything. Then I opened the facility-wide communication channel. All personnel, this is Warden Krell. New protocols effective immediately regarding prisoner Marcus Webb. Human. Cell Block 9. He is to be treated with full respect according to all facility regulations. Any harassment from other inmates will be met with immediate disciplinary action. Any procedural violations by staff will result in suspension. His meals will include seasoning from the Earth Cultural Database. And anyone, find out if we have any human-compatible recreational materials, books, videos, games, something. I paused, then added, and if anyone sees the Thorians from the cafeteria incident even looking at him wrong, I want them in isolation. The Thorians, not the human. Are we clear? A chorus of affirmatives came back. I pulled up the security feed from Marcus's cell one more time. He was sitting on his bunk, which had been restored along with the small desk and chair. He was reading something on a datapad, probably more facility regulations, looking peaceful and content. He glanced up at the camera, almost like he knew I was watching, and he nodded. Just once. A small acknowledgement. I nodded back even though he could not see me. 3 more cycles. I could manage 3 more cycles, probably. Maybe, if I was very, very careful and extremely lucky. The next 2 cycles were the strangest of my career. Word had spread through the facility about the human, not just among the guards, but among the inmates. Stories got exaggerated in the telling, as stories do. By the second day I heard someone claim that Marcus had fought 20 Thorians simultaneously while juggling energy batons and reciting poetry. Ridiculous, of course, but the fact that I had to actually stop and think about whether it was possible, that said something. The other inmates gave him space. Lots of space. When Marcus walked into the recreation yard, conversation stopped. Groups moved away, not in panic exactly, more like the instinctive caution you show around something you do not fully understand but know could be dangerous. Marcus seemed bemused by the whole thing. He played cards with a group of Zelkrim who were brave enough to approach him. He helped a young Porthan figure out how to use the exercise equipment. He even taught some basic meditation techniques to anyone who asked, which apparently was a human method for managing stress. It is all about breathing, I heard him explain to a fascinated group of inmates during one recreation period. I had started monitoring his activities personally, not because I expected trouble, but because, well, habit. Slow breath in through your nose, hold it. Slow breath out through your mouth. Your body calms down, your mind clears. Works for humans might work for you. A Thorian, not one of the ones from the cafeteria incident, raised a massive hand. Does it work before combat? Marcus smiled. Works especially well before combat. Keeps you focused. Keeps you from making mistakes because you are too angry or scared to think clearly. My grandfather taught me that. He was a soldier, said the best warriors were the ones who could stay calm while everything was chaos. Your grandfather was a warrior? The Thorian asked, respect evident in his tone. Most humans have warriors in their ancestry somewhere, Marcus said casually. We fought a lot, against predators, against the environment, against each other. Took us a long time to figure out that cooperation worked better than conflict. We still forget sometimes. He said it so matter-of-factly, like having a legacy of planetary-scale violence was just normal background information. I suppose for humans it was. On the 3rd cycle, his final day, I decided to speak with him directly. Professional courtesy, I told myself, making sure the transfer back to council custody would go smoothly. Definitely not curiosity. Absolutely not. I found him in his cell packing the few personal items that had been returned to him. His wedding ring, his chronometer, a data pad with some books loaded onto it that Tarma had acquired from the Human Cultural Database. Warden Krell, he said, looking up as I approached. Come to make sure I am leaving peacefully. Something like that, I admitted. Your transport arrives in 3 hours. Council custody will take you directly to your trial. Based on what I have been told, you should be released shortly after. That is good news, Marcus said, slipping the ring back onto his finger. I miss my wife. She was not happy about the arrest. Even less happy about the detention. She is probably planning to give the council representatives a very long lecture about due process and proportional response. She sounds formidable. She is terrifying, Marcus agreed cheerfully. She is a human rights lawyer, has argued cases in front of the council before. When she sets her mind to something, reality bends to accommodate her. I learned a long time ago not to get in her way. He sat on the bunk, gesturing to the chair. I sat, carefully, my multiple legs folding in ways that probably looked awkward to bipedal eyes. I owe you an apology, I said, the words coming harder than I expected. I did not take you seriously as a security concern. Then I overreacted when I realized my mistake. Neither approach was appropriate or fair. Marcus studied me for a moment. You know what I appreciate about that statement, Warden? You did not make excuses. You did not blame incomplete files or council classifications or cultural misunderstandings. You just acknowledged the mistake. That is more than most beings manage. It was still wrong. Yes, it was, he agreed, not unkindly. But you corrected it. You listened. You adjusted. That matters too. My people have a saying. The measure of someone is not whether they make mistakes, but what they do after making them. Humans have many sayings, I am learning. We have thousands of years of accumulated wisdom, platitudes, and contradictory advice, Marcus said with a grin. We wrote it all down because we kept forgetting the important parts and having to relearn them the hard way. Seemed more efficient to just reference the old mistakes instead of making new ones. I clicked my mandibles in what might have been amusement. Can I ask you something? The confrontation in the intersection. You could have escaped. You disabled 10 guards. You had the layout memorized, and from what I understand now about human capabilities, you probably could have reached the docking bay before we locked down the facility. Why did you stop and negotiate instead? Marcus leaned back against the wall, considering the question. 'Cause I did not want to escape, Warden. I was arrested legally if stupidly. Running would make me actually guilty of something. I would rather serve unjust time and be vindicated than become a fugitive and prove my critics right. Principle matters. Justice matters. Even when it is slow and frustrating and involves eating gray protein paste for days. But you were willing to fight. To defend myself, yes. To escape, no. There is a difference. Humans are big on differences, even when they look the same from the outside. Self-defense is a right. Escape from legal custody is a crime. I was not going to cross that line. He paused, then added with a wry smile. Also, my wife would have killed me. She spent 3 months preparing my speech for that summit. If I ruined her work by becoming an interstellar fugitive, I would never hear the end of it. Better to face a few Thorians than an angry spouse. I laughed. Actually laughed. The sound surprised me. Your people are very strange, I said. You have no idea, Warden. We have barely started integrating with the galactic community. Wait until you meet the humans who are really weird. The artists, the scientists, the ones who do extreme sports for fun. I am boring compared to some of my species. You are many things, Marcus Webb. Boring is not one of them. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Marcus asked, can I give you some advice for dealing with other humans who might end up here? Please. We respond well to honesty and respect. We do not like being lied to or patronized. If you explain why rules exist, we will generally follow them. If you just say because I said so, we will find creative ways around them. We are cooperative by nature, but also independent. We want to be part of communities, but we also want our individual dignity respected. It is a balance. He stood, stretching, his joints making small popping sounds that seemed normal for humans but sounded alarming to me. Also, never underestimate human creativity. Give us a problem, we will solve it. Sometimes in ways you did not expect or want. Give us a challenge, we will meet it. Give us an enemy, we will fight it. Give us a friend, we will die for them. We are extreme that way. All or nothing. No middle ground. That sounds exhausting. It really is. Marcus agreed. But it kept us alive on a planet that tried very hard to kill us. And now that we are off that planet, well, the galaxy is learning what happens when you take a species that survived by being too stubborn to die and give them spaceships. There was a comm chime. The transport had arrived early. Marcus picked up his small bag of belongings. Thank you for the conversation, Warden Krell. and for adjusting your approach. It made the last few days much more bearable. Thank you for not escaping or causing a facility-wide incident. The key word there is more, he said with a grin. I did cause some incidents, just not as many as I could have. I escorted him personally to the docking bay. Standard procedure for high-profile transfers, I told myself. Definitely not, because I wanted to make sure he actually left without further complications. The council security team was waiting, professional and heavily armed. They had read the restricted files, I could tell. They treated Marcus with cautious respect. Before boarding, Marcus turned back to me. One more thing, Warden. The Thorians who attacked me in the cafeteria. Yes?
They apologized yesterday.
Kragor especially. He said he learned a valuable lesson about assumptions and consequences. I accepted the apology. No hard feelings. You might want to note that in their files. Capacity for growth and learning. Rehabilitation. Not just punishment. That is what detention should be about, right? He said it so simply, like he had not just articulated the entire philosophical foundation of the Council's justice system in 2 sentences. I will note it, I said quietly. Marcus nodded, then boarded the transport. The doors sealed. The ship detached and disappeared into the void. I stood there for a long time staring at empty space. Tharma appeared at my side. Sir, should we update our protocols for human detainees? Yes, I said immediately. New classification. Humans are now Class A in all official records. No more restricted file nonsense. If another human comes through here, I want everyone to know exactly what we are dealing with from day one. What about our current threat assessment procedures? I thought about Marcus. About his calm negotiations, his studied patience, his absolute refusal to be more violent than necessary. About how he had disabled guards without seriously injuring them. About how he had accepted apologies from inmates who attacked him. About how he had taught meditation techniques to criminals. Add a note, I said slowly. Humans are Class A threats with Class A capacity for cooperation and rehabilitation. Approach with caution but also with respect. They will match the energy you bring. Bring violence, receive violence. Bring fairness, receive cooperation. They are mirrors that way. Very dangerous mirrors. That is unusually philosophical for a threat assessment, sir. Humans are unusually philosophical for apex predators. Tharma, we have to adapt. I turned away from the docking bay, heading back to my office. There was paperwork to file, reports to submit, protocols to update, a facility to run. But I stopped at my office door and looked back at the security feeds. The cafeteria where Marcus had fought 3 Thorians. The intersection where he had negotiated his terms. The cell where he had spent his detention reading regulations and planning his defense. Note to file, I said aloud, recording for the official record. Warden Krell, Detention Center Kappa 9, final assessment of human detainee Marcus Webb. The prisoner was cooperative, non-violent when possible, and defended himself only when attacked. He followed facility regulations better than most staff. He displayed intelligence, patience, and mercy in circumstances that would have broken most beings. He leaves this facility with no marks against his record beyond the initial unjust arrest. I paused, then added, and if I ever receive another human transfer, I will read the entire file first, all 947 pages. Because humans do not need weapons to be dangerous. They are weapons, but they are also philosophers, teachers, and peacemakers. They are everything and nothing like we expect. And that, more than anything, is what makes them remarkable. I closed the recording. Somewhere in the facility, normal operations continued. Inmates ate their meals. Guards walked their patrols. The recycling systems hummed. Life went on. But I had learned something these past few cycles. Something important. Something that every being in the galaxy was going to have to learn eventually. Humans were here. They were part of the Council now. Part of galactic civilization. And we could either treat them with the respect they deserved, or we could learn the hard way why you do not corner a predator and expect it to quietly accept injustice. I preferred the first option. Much preferred it. Because I had seen what one unarmed human could do when pushed. And I never ever wanted to see what they could do if they actually brought weapons. Or worse, if they stopped being nice. The galaxy was changing. Humans were here. And honestly, that was probably a good thing. As long as we remembered one simple rule. Do not confiscate their weapons and think you have won. Because humans are the weapons, and you cannot confiscate what they are.